live now. We'll have the question Q&A after 40 minutes. So all the principals, Nandita ma'am, Ruma ma'am, Shamala ma'am, as well as Lakshmi ma'am, Annayana ma'am, we'll be opening the session after 40 minutes. So, yep. So hello, everyone on the YouTube. I'm very happy to introduce you to our guests today. As I told to all the parents as well as kids on the channel, that today we are having a different kind of a session. Okay, this Sunday usually we call scientists as well as scientific communicators, people who tell us about science and everything. But this time we try to inculcate something new. We have called principals of your schools, we have called your teachers, we have called some international global educators from China, from France, from Europe, from Finland, and all these countries. So it's going to be an international session, and we'll be talking that how all the educators, all the leaders and educators, our teachers, and all each and every one, how they are dealing this problem. So I'd like to introduce you to Martin. Martin, hello, how are you?
Hi, nice meeting you.
Yes, and we also have Kate from China and Minna from Finland. So, guys, the session will be around. Hi, Minna, can you hear us? Yeah, I think you're mute or you're on mute. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Oh, now you can hear me. Yeah, right. Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Yep. So, and we also have certain wonderful principals from all across the India. We have Nayana ma'am, Indu Luthra ma'am, Nanta Dasgupta ma'am, Rima ma'am, Roma ma'am, and there are a lot of principals on YouTube as well who are watching us live. So everyone, this session is going to begin now. And first we'll have Martin, then Kate, and then Minna, who will tell us that how things are happening. So I'll give just a brief intro that Martin's basically from France. He has done PhD in psychology, and he's very much, he's CEO of a company known as Acribian. And he has been very passionate about edtech and technology and inclusion of technology in education. So Martin, over to you. This is also a live streaming, so I'll be telling certain chat comments who are coming. And let's see what you have to tell to our young as well as our mature audiences.
Yes, nice to meet you. Thank you for the introduction. Do you see my screen very well? I hope so.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. So my name is Martin. I'm the founder of Acribian. And what is Acribian?
Yeah.
And what is Acribian? That is, it means scientific accuracy. And that's what my company is about. We turn children into math stars, and we use science and game design. So I'll try to explain it more, but this is my focus here today. How will EdTech be during COVID, or how is it during COVID? I think it's a little like this. We're sitting inside, we're not having the best times always, and we're asking ourselves, I need high quality digital teaching. We're looking around. I think it's pretty hard to find. I find some occasionally, and I hope at least, you see this is a little glittery future. It's a lot of stars here in the EdTech post-COVID area. I hope that we can go to a better place when it comes to digital solutions. And this is my recipe, more my vision than what the actual event, what is going to take place. I hope that we can have a recipe for high quality digital teaching that relies on proven results and that is highly motivating. Because if we know it's effective and we know students like it, they will excel. And you see, if you have a bad recipe, it could end up like this, as in our game. Not a pie, exactly. Let's turn into something different. This is me again. You have a lot of faces on me. I apologize for that. But I'm a doctor of psychology, and during my PhD, I found that there are really no good math education methods out there. So I invented a method to teach math that, unlike others, has proven results. And what do I mean by proven results? Yeah, it's been published in top-ranked academic journals in the American Psychological Associations, their best education outlet. I'll get into depth. What do I mean by really good results? But I guess you know this one, right? Math for children is too hard sometimes, or boring, or too easy for some people. So we created Count on Me. It's a math venture. It's an adventure game where you practice, say, 60 minutes per week. And we use learning psychology. Learning psychology is, to me, I think, the most effective method in the history of psychology for changing behaviors. Sometimes it's called behavioral psychology or cognitive behavior therapy. Anyways, I call it learning psychology. And we use game design. And you see in the lower right, I think you see Massive Entertainment. We collaborate with this company, and that's to make the game design happen. I guess 10 years ago, we were talking a lot about gamification. That's the thing to get highly motivated students. But really, it's not enough. We have to have real game design, something that captivates students for real. So we partnered up with Massive. They are experts at creating games for big movies, such as the Avatar movie you may have seen, and the Star Wars games. They're the ones making the last one, open Star Wars games. And this is Count on Me. So please have a look at the very far back here. You may see something looking like a castle. This is the country of Numberia, where the evil Prince Claw resides. And the child in this game, that's a 6, 7, 8, or 9-year-old child, is set up to be the math magician in this part of the world. He or she will find that the land of Numberia is in chaos. I need to use my mathematical skills to free the country and restore peace here. So you do that. You use your mathematical powers by doing math and then proceeding in the adventure. In total, it's 180 days of training, 15 minutes a day. And you start in your home base, you spawn into the world, and then you go back to your home base and go to bed. It's a little like Sims, the Sims game. So this is how I think we compare to others. There are a lot of good apps. And when I tell people this is a math app, some people go, oh no, not just another math app. There's so many of them, right? So I would say if there's what we proposed is that we have proven results published in top-ranked journals, and we have great design. What do I mean by great design? I already said something about it. It's learning psychology, and it's really good game design. That's how we think we can differentiate. And this is what happens when we gave this game, Count on Me, to a lot of students, 100 students only, actually, but 8 and 9-year-olds in a country, in a city in Sweden. So I'm from the southern part of Sweden. We have children, a lot of immigrant children. They have some real challenges. If you look at the little pet up here on the 100% line, those are the best students in math among 8 and 9-year-olds in Sweden. And the weakest students in math are down here. The median would be here, 50, right? So these 100 8 and 9-year-olds, they were well below the median from the beginning of the school year. During the school year, they were supposed to learn lots of things, right? They were supposed to learn subtraction and addition facts, but also higher numbers with addition and subtraction, up to 1,000 really. And those were taught using regular teaching. And this is what happened. During the school year, they lose positions compared to others. You see, they go from the 38% to the 36%. And just because they actually are underprivileged or have low socioeconomic status, they're not as privileged as some other kids are. Up to 1,000 really. And when we gave them our product, Count on Me, we could see they went from well below the median to well above the median. And that is really the thing we see in our published findings too. This is just a case study, not published, but it replicates the research findings. So I think there are ways to make this happen. And this is my team. We have a lot of pets. Also have one here. Trying to motivate children and making it more fun. They're also in the game. My co-founder, Henrik, is from Finland. We have Julia from Ukraine, who makes the graphics. We have some game designers from King, a big gaming company who made Candy Crush Saga. We also have a narrative designer. We have to have a nice story, right? Captivating adventure. And the narrative designer, as in our game, is Sandy Chen. She's been making the Witcher game, which was successful. some years ago. Okay, that's all good. But what does proven results and highly motivating mean? Okay, what's like, I'm talking a lot, but this is what I mean. I mean results that are published in randomized controlled trials. That's gold standard design when it comes to science. And yeah, talking about COVID, it's really, if we have a good COVID vaccine, it has to be tested in or validated in randomized controlled trials. Some people get the vaccine, some people don't get the vaccine. And it has to be published in peer-reviewed academic journals. So this is my definition of proven results. There's a lot of data on this. Maybe if you want to replay this is a picture you could look at. We put a lot of effort into our research, $3 million so far. And we do always randomized controlled trials. We're actually conducting the largest digital math study ever, starting next year. And we put a lot of effort in validated tests. When I was starting out my PhD, I didn't think tests were the most interesting things, but I had to spend a full year norming and standardizing tests with 4,500 students and publish it. This was just to make sure that we have good tests on tablet, easy to use. And there's another thing that I think is interesting about our scientific approach, and I hope others could use, is that many people measure percent. Okay, you had 15 corrects out of 15, that's great. You have 90% correct, that's good. But don't get stuck in the percent correct crap. If you're really excellent at something, if you excel, if you have mastery, it's really having 90 or 100% correct that matters, but also being very fast. I would say to be fluent with 5 plus 7 is 12, or 12 minus 3 is 9. You have to have 35 corrects per minute, maximum 1 error on tablet if you're 9 years old. This kind of precision is really needed. Otherwise, you will lose these skills. It's like biking or swimming. You have to be fluent, otherwise you'll sink. We collaborate with a lot of top-ranked academic universities, of course, in Sweden. We're looking for other collaborations. And by highly motivating, going back to that one, proven results and highly motivating, these are the two main things I want you to take away with you if you want to have effective digital tools. I mean that students have to be engaged. They have to respond probably 8, 9, or 10 times per minute. And doing my research, I saw that students on average did 10 responses per minute. So that means in 20 minutes, they did 200 math exercises at their level. And I think that is very important. Otherwise, you'll lose the interest. You can't have a tutorial going on for 20 seconds with nothing happening. You want responses all the time at their level, not just something that makes them tap, but also something where they get a little better at something. So our way, and there are many ways, of course, is to have a captivating design, a story-driven adventure. That's what I think is, or I hope, is the most driving force for us when students play. So this is what our game design looks like. You have the castle, you also have some underground events where a little character you play, you meet people, the mole people, the robot. So just to put you, what is game design and this captivating thing that we are doing? To give an example. In the beginning, there was an equation, and the ancient mathematicians thought that it was good. Namberia is a peaceful place governed by the royal house of Kattegat. Wise kings and queens use math magic for the highest good of all and seek the advice of Mika, the mentor in all mathematical matters. However, a dark time begins when Prince Chloe inherits the throne. He is a bitter kitten, plagued by shame and jealousy. He is the regent of the realm of numbers, but he can't figure out how to master the magic ruler, the key to math magic. In a moment of despair, Prince Chloe throws the magic ruler into the sea. He wants to destroy math magic forever. There is chaos. Prince Claus' shadows grows even darker. The mouse soldiers guard the royal castle and patrol the realm to ensure that no one is practicing math magic. With the magic ruler gun, thorny bushes, wicked creatures, collapsing cave doors, and malfunctioning devices become everyday occurrences in Namberia. Oh, there, the mentor, Mika, understands that the future of Numbera is at stake. She knows that the only way to restore the balance in Numbera is to return the magic ruler to its rightful place in the royal castle. Unfortunately, Prince Claus' mouse soldiers capture her before she has time to act. They imprison her in the ancient castle Magicum. So it's all hope lost. Not entirely, because Mika has a secret. She has rescued the magic ruler. And she sends a package to the young mathematician. This is the student, the only one who can save Numbera. So this is how we try to make this become interesting for the child. But we have to have a high rate of responding to get highly motivated students. We have partnerships with a massive studio that I mentioned, but also Microsoft. And to address this again, I know what you think, oh, another math app, but that's where you're wrong. But because unlike others, we have proven results and we have highly motivating design. This is my hope. This is what we should deliver to all students. And this is also my hope for post-COVID. Can we somehow make this happen? Stick to publishing results for real, showing that it actually works. That would be great. Not just talking about it, everybody likes it or something. We have to have proven results. So just to the very end, this is my little secret. This is my thesis called Closing the Gap. Once we have made this game for all ages, like from 4 to 15 years of age. Right now we are to 6, 7, and 8 and 9-year-olds. So once we have it across the elementary school, my promise and my goal for the rest of my work life is to improve countries' PISA rankings positions. I think we could raise India's PISA scores with 100 points. And for Sweden and UK, that would mean we could go from 17th to 3rd place. So if you are interested in knowing more, please reach out to me. This is my address, martin@caribbean.com. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Martin, that was really very interesting. The whole concept of game design, as well as the concept of psychology and the storyline which you told us. So all the principals as well as the educators who are present on the Zoom meeting, do you want to comment anything regarding it, Minna and Kate as well? Because this is something which is really interesting. I have seen we at Kalam Labs also developed games, 3D games and 3D learning environment, but the whole storyline about mathematics, it's totally new concept. So any comments on that? You can unmute yourself and speak out directly.
Yes, Martin games seems really, really interesting. Like to try it out sometimes. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I think Martin, you told one of your co-founders also from Finland, right? In the beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Minna is I think from city of Turku.
Yeah, I'm from Turku. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. And the other people as well, Neeraj, Nanta ma'am, do you want to say something regarding the whole concept of gamified mathematical learning modules?
Hi,
Yeah.
This is Dr. Neeraj Awasthi.
Yes, hello, sir.
So, yeah, hi, good morning.
Good morning.
So I think the concept is very good and it is going to be helpful to the students in future. And definitely technology is doing so many things for us in the academics now. And I'm thankful to this guy who has planted such a beautiful creation. I'm really thankful for this.
Yep. Yeah. So next we have yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, Harshit, I just had I don't know how far.
Ma'am, I think you're on mute. Can you please unmute yourself? Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry. I'll just repeat myself. I'll just repeat myself. See, I do not know how far this is going to be acceptable to the maker of this wonderful app and the way it spreads out. But in short, when we are thinking of different kinds of geos, I mean, across the world, what is the extent or what is the level of customization, if I may use a very old word, for different geos, because we are going to have these, you're talking about one kind of adventure story, but that may have a limited acceptability in terms of the entire world scenario.
Absolutely.
There are, apart from India, and we live in our villages, we live in our remote towns, not just and there I think the need is more. So what is that customization factor that is inbuilt into this entire project?
Absolutely. I think we should customize it a lot. Now it has a little Nordic flavor. It's very classic adventure to some extent. But I think that's something I want to learn. So that's why it would be fun to have more users outside of the Nordics where we are right now to understand, okay, how do we actually find compelling stories? So absolutely, that's something I would love to do. I don't know when though.
Yep. So
thank you so much.
Sorry, yep. Can I ask, Martin? Is the game only online, or can you use it offline?
It's actually online at this moment. It's going to be an app that you install, but it's going to need connection.
Yeah, maybe because somewhere the internet connection isn't good enough, or some homes don't have access to internet, so that could be one point.
Absolutely. I think that's something Henrik Rosvall, my co-founder, the man from Finland, he could probably address that better than me. I'm not that technical, but in the long run, we should have it also on mobile. Now it's on tablet, but we should have it on mobile because, especially for India, for instance, that's what you use, if I understood it correctly.
Yeah.
I want to comment.
Yeah. Yes,
very interesting and very innovative ideas. I really appreciate. And I appreciate Kalam, such a young boy, and got so big vision of inviting us from all over the globe. I'm really impressed after seeing your photograph.
Yeah, thank you.
My blessing to you.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. It's truly an honorable session for us to have the people from all around the globe and principals who are joining us on YouTube as well as on Zoom. Next, we have Kate. Kate is basically from China, one of the neighboring countries in India, and she has done research in a lot of edtech domains. She has been working in Pecking University, as well as she has been involved in a lot of other things. So, Kate, please can you enlighten us? What are the things which you have seen in edtech so far, and what are the things which you would like to tell us in this part of the world?
Thank you so much for such a lovely introduction. So yeah, I'm in Peking University, and I concentrate on EdTech. So we will primarily talk about technologies in education. And I thought that there's gonna be like more of a discussion. So I'm gonna give the ideas that we can talk about, and I would really love to hear questions. And I'm so happy that we have principals of schools here, because that's an amazing opportunity. Thank you so much. So I will talk about the pain points that the COVID showed for China in particular, and we can talk, more generally. Then we're gonna talk about opportunities that were also shown by the COVID. Then I will talk how we can maybe improve some of the pain points and what I learned in the past couple of months. So to begin with, I started my research because I was doing political studies, and I investigated anti-corruption campaign in China. Then I switched to environmental policy, and I realized that the implementation of environmental policy has a lot of problems in China. I'm sorry if my dog is too loud. She's playing with a bone. So because the environmental policy had struggles on the local level in China, I began to pay more attention to implementation and realized that the education of local authorities is the main barrier for environmental policies to enter certain provinces. And at the same time, I was reading an amazing work done by Yan Yao. He's the head of the faculty of basically economic development of Peking University. And in 2013, he described the Chinese growth miracle, but he described it not, you know, as successful policies done by the government, like opening up policies, reforms and everything, something that you hear all the time. He actually looked at people, at human capital as the main driving force. And he explained how Chinese human capital, led by education, forced the country to grow so rapidly and for such a long time. And I thought that this is an amazing idea. So I started, you know, paying more attention to education. And so finally, we are coming to, you know, the topic of our discussion. During the COVID, we could see the first pain point is that there is a lack of online skills among teachers. And teachers try to oppose, at least in China, they try to oppose using online tools because they're really scared of using them. And one of the NGOs in China, they actually ran, I think, 3 weeks long program of teaching teachers how to use different online tools, different platforms. And you know, it was done really fast and it was quite efficient. And after that, teachers told that actually it's not that scared and it's actually very beneficial to use them during classes. That was very lovely. The second one is mentioned by parents and mostly by children, is that during online classes, there is a lack of interaction between students and teachers in general. And it gives, you know, it's not very beneficial for learning. So this pain point shows us that online platforms should develop somehow this human interaction during online classes. And this is why right now in China, there is a new market growing of using VR glasses. So in the future, at least Chinese companies see that you can use VR for online schooling. The third pain point is that, and it's very obvious, I think, but still, is that marginalized groups, especially in rural areas, and to underline this, China is still mostly an agricultural country. 50% of the country is still like a rural area, and they were hit the most. And this is very interesting to discuss how the government tried to help those marginalized groups, you know, during the COVID, during the quarantine, going online. So it also, the COVID showed opportunities. And the first opportunity is the growing of cross-cultural communication, which I think is a great example of the today's panel, but also a lot of, you know, households in China, they switched on like taking online classes, going from offline, for example, English learning lessons to online English learning lessons, which eventually actually led students to have better tutors online. The second opportunity is, well, communication in general. Not only cross-cultural communication, right, but the importance of improving communication, thus speaking and listening. And I guess there is a problem in Chinese education, and I wonder how it is in India. The classes have a format of spoon feeding. So usually children sit and they listen and listen and listen, but they rarely talk. So the discussion is not encouraged. And first of all, it's very boring. I can imagine that, like right now. But also, you know, it's not fulfilling, it's not interactive. There is a lack of motivation. And again, it's only if we talk about middle schools. We can also touch upon primary education and higher education later. And the other opportunity that I saw in China is the ability of people to actually be flexible and being able to switch which is great, and the creation of new content and ideas, which is also very beautiful. Also, it showed that a lot of people are able to work from home and to study from home, and that online working and studying environment is the future for our world, I guess. And so moving from that point, what can be done is new curriculums can be created, new methodologies can be created. So there is a lot of work for everyone. And sharing skills can also be encouraged. So a lot of children I talk to, they realized that, right now you can see online how people work. And you realize that you constantly learn something, but you don't have these practical skills. So you can spend a lot of time learning, but eventually what do you learn for, And I think this skill sharing, the future of education as a skill sharing is very interesting. So what the Chinese government did, they successfully finished the policy by 2020, so last year, of spreading internet connection. And they spread internet connection on more than 56% of the area of the country, which is great. And I think that by 2030, it's gonna be up, I don't know, to 80% of the internet coverage in the country, which is really nice. Thus, they were able to lift up rural area. And the last point is that the last article we've published with my co-author, Emma Schleifer, is that a lot of solutions which were already discovered and developed by businesses, they can be implemented in public schools. So private-public, public-private partnerships seemed like a good idea, and we wanted to discover, is it working in China or not? And this is why I'm so happy that we have principals here, because I want to hear your opinions as educators and administrators, if it is possible. Because in China, to be honest, private-public partnerships are not working. And they are not working mainly for reasons. The first is, of course, budget barriers. A lot of schools in China actually, they don't have huge problems with money, but they have budget administrative constraints because China is highly centralized. And in decentralized regions, they don't have money. And in centralized regions, they have to wait for a very long time to receive money from the government to purchase anything. And edtech is quite expensive. That's first. The second one is the distrust from parents, principals, and educators of those edtech tools, and especially of the content of online classes, online courses, whatever not. And because educators don't trust the content should be approved, and in China the approval goes from the government, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money for the business to get the approval, and eventually the partnership doesn't work. And the fourth point is corruption, of course. I'm from Russia, by the way, so I know everything about corruption. And I think it's a huge problem for the government, for the countries on the same level of development. So China, India, Brazil, Russia, we're in the same corruption squad, let's be real about it. There are good examples of certain companies being able to make partnerships, but they are mostly working outside of China. There is an educational platform, it's called ClassIn, and it's like a Zoom platform, but you can use it specifically for educational purposes. So they have blackboards, they have different tools that you can use during the class, and they managed to enter Malaysia, and they entered public schools actually. I don't know how it is working, but it's interesting. And the final point is that I recently read, I love technologies, but I'm a bit skeptical. And I think that sometimes simple solutions are what we need to look at. And the simplest solution is that recently I read an amazing article done by one, American researcher in 1984. And he mentioned that technologies are not essential, while a good tutor, even for a year, makes a huge difference. And tutoring can benefit students in a very efficient way. And basically, while having a very good tutor for a year, students not only learn the content, but they also learn how to learn, which is essential, And for everyone, it should be, I think, like said like a prayer. Every solution should be cheap, easy, and fast. And online tutoring is definitely the key here. And of course, great tutors can develop new methodologies, which is really nice. And I think this is the end of my very interesting talk. And I would love to hear your questions.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Kate. That was really intriguing as well as insightful. The points which you laid upon that how researchers, like how education is rolling in China, how COVID had been responsible for the education development and the technology inclusion. And the last point, the thing which I am very intrigued, like that was intriguing for me, that you said that sometimes simpler methods can be utilized in place of complex methods. And that was really interesting. So I like all the panelists who are present, all the principals as well as Martin, Minna, and all the people who are present on YouTube as well. If you have any comments or question, then we can proceed for it. Yep. Yeah, Minna, do you want to speak?
I can say that what Kate said about that interaction between students and interaction between teacher and student is I think really important, because my passion is teacher and students well-being. So what I've noticed that if you have lack of interaction, that's not good and not motivating at all.
Yep, exactly. That was a good point. And any further questions, principals and all the people? I have a question regarding the Chinese implementation of the corruption part, like how public-private partnerships are working out. So I think Martin is also co-founder, like a startup entrepreneur, right? And Minna is basically is a teacher at a school in Finland, and I'm also a co-founder of a startup. So we have seen certain frictions in schools and startups working together. So there are certain times there are government policies, certain times there is other constraints and frictions which are working. So have you seen any method which can perhaps work if implemented well? Like any kind of a method which is in your mind which can help these public-private partnerships? Because the results are usually the same. They don't end up well. Yeah.
I have one idea.
Okay. Yeah, Martin, please go on.
Yes, and I agree. I think it's very important to have collaboration. And when I was talking about how we try to solve it, at this point, we don't have students being in the game talking to each other. But of course, that's really something I would love to. So I think that makes sense with tutoring or just interacting with other people, of course. We not just want to have people sitting with one screen, not and high responding, but only to the computer. We want to have them responding to others. So I would say one way is to not say it's 100% digital or not digital at all. Maybe you could have 30-40% of a class, an hour being devoted to things like the product I use or other products. And that's what I say when I use it for teachers. It's not going to be more, it's going to be less than half of the teaching, because then you can actually use the digital tools, what they're good at, mass training, some conceptual understanding, and also retrieving data. But the 60 other percent, you can have all the verbal things. I mean, in mathematics, it's super important with language. It's a lot of talk going on in mathematics. So maybe not saying is either or, but complementary.
Yep, exactly. That was really interesting, Martin. So I think we can go to the next speaker lineup, and then we'll open the discussion for all the people to join. So the next speaker is actually Minna. She's from Finland, and I'd like to tell the story behind how we actually invited her. So Minna has been working with us in certain manner. So in September 2020, we were declared as an International Innovation of the Year. And at that point of time, our colleague Tanishq had reached out to Minna, and he told that how we are working and using augmented reality at Kalam Labs. So like the reaction of Minna and all the support which she gave in the initial days, and she also helped us in to create a product into Finnish module, like how we can reach out to Finnish schools and implement our solutions over there. So Minna, it's a great pleasure to have you with us in this session, and I like to it can be a good opportunity for all the people to hear from you.
Yeah, hi. Hi from snowy Finland. But yeah, so I'm teaching first to second graders now in Turku. And I see that gamification we have like huge potential in gamification and augmented reality and things like that. Like I said, we can't forget interaction between students, between people, because I think that even though in Finland the school have been closed only like for 2 months last spring, then it was summer, and after summer schools have been open unless some classes that may have COVID positive students. So our schools are open. So things are that were different in here now. But what COVID has shown is that if students aren't ready to use tablets or computers or things like that, the distant learning is really difficult. So what we have started to do with our small students is teach how to use tablets. So when you can use different kind of tablets, computers, etc., then you can use it to learn things that you don't like. If you don't know how to use the devices, so then that the learning with them is much more difficult. That's one thing. And other thing was that we have to reach to our students. We have to connect with them. We have to speak with them, so they manage better at home. So that's about COVID. But yeah, gamification, augmented reality. I think post-COVID they are still important, and with that, for example, Martin's game, which was really interesting, we can motivate students better. And actually, in this previous week, I just noticed that we have many students that Finnish is their second language. So Finnish might be really difficult for them. But they all use tablets really like easily. So that also can like equalize students to learn, for example, math, because it shouldn't be up to your like how well you speak Finnish or other language. So that may help in that also. But yeah, that's how I think. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So I think that the points laid out about the post-COVID situation in Finland. They were quite interesting, and your take on AR and gamification. So I think we have seen the gamification of mathematics by Martin, but there's a question from YouTube that how we see augmented reality and gamification in the upcoming post-COVID world. So actually, in that specific question, Kalam Labs has been working on that problem. And I'd like to just show the 30 seconds thing which we have heard. And Martin, it will be really important if you could give your insights on what do you feel about what we're doing at Kalam Labs. So for all the international speakers, I'd like to introduce that basically Kalam is the name of the former president of India, and he was the leading scientist behind
Is it? Okay.
and I'd like to see insights on that. Yep. So can you hear the sound, everyone?
In our solar system, there are gaps between the planets.
So I'll tell you that basically we have created a whole virtual science playground. So what happens is that in our session, we have a whole 3D solar system which is being projected, and there are kids around us. So when we have to show anything or something, then we actually take our spaceship and the Jigasu character into places and talk about it. So it can be solar system. In the next month, we are working on black holes as well as other popular concepts. So I was personally where, and all the three co-founders at Kalam Labs, we were very much fascinated about space science and all the other things. So we are dealing with popular science concepts, not exactly covered in schools, and the concepts which basically incite curiosity, the concept which you see in Discovery and Nat Geo.
There are gaps between the planets, so how it's formed?
So the questions can go anywhere. It's a virtual playground. Kids are moving with us in the live class. And the best element of our whole scenario is the augmented reality. So this is actually my terrace. I think it's a bit blurred, but what we are trying to do is that we have actually brought Jupiter to my terrace. And if you want to visualize any complex topic, then that is our approach, that you can actually just use a tablet and make it in a different way. So this is Earth being projected on the tablet, and we were actually telling them how global warming is affecting the poles and the Antarctica side. So I think, Minna, you must have seen this thing before, the Earth and as well as the electrical science experiments which we have developed. So that is the whole point of gamification which we are developing in India from our side. We have previously worked with NCRT as well, in which we converted all the textbook of NCRT into augmented reality, where if you just see any illustration present in the textbook, then it will get converted into augmented reality. So let's suppose if it's a DC motor, then you can actually work with it live. Yep. So that is our idea, which of gamification and augmented reality on which we have been working so far. So any review on that so far? All the people who are present, all the principals, Martin especially, because you, when you said gamification and you say started showing us the game, so it was really interesting to see. Mathematics is something which I personally don't find it can go well with gamification, but this was the first time when I actually see your modules and the storyline. I thought that yes, there is a good scope and potential of converting it as well.
Yep. I think it was so nice to see. Thank you. That was lovely, very inspiring. Having Jupiter outside your house, that's just fascinating. Yeah. I always wanted that.
Yeah.
That's my first gut reaction, but I think just it could be a richer learning environment, of course, and just variation. Talking about motivating people all the time.
Yeah.
You can have this could be just a big, huge variation. So you could hear the voices of the children. They were engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and also when increasing the rate of responding, like the frequency, how often they engage, as Minna mentioned before. Mm-hmm. I think that's also key. We can have those two: big variation, lots of participation.
Yep.
Yeah. Wonderful to see.
Yeah, there's one example which I wanted to show, that which we were developing previously. So during COVID time, we had actually worked with a lot of schools in India and produced AR-based lab experiments. So I think those were the times when actually we could not use anything, lab and all that stuff. So what we did was that if you want to like study the chromatography experiment, then what we had actually built was that you can actually just take your phone outside and switch on the camera mode and scan any textbook. So this is a regular register of a
pencil to draw a baseline. Put a spot of ink at the center of the line.
So this is exactly augmented reality and how we are using it in order to
should be above the water level.
Yep.
Components of ink gets soluble in water and rises along the filter paper.
So this is the idea of how we have seen digitalization and inclusion of technology. So perhaps, I think Kate was telling us about the VR headsets being used in the classes. There are chances that it can be used. So there have been certain cases where VR has a great potential, but the outreach of the hardware, that we cannot provide like a VR headset to every student. That's the biggest friction in the process. So how we thought was that if there is a smartphone which is present in each and every of the phone, each and every person, like there are around I think so far 300 400 Indian parents have watched this on YouTube so far. So each and every one is perhaps using a smartphone. So all this is done just with a smartphone, and we are just utilizing the processing power of it. So this is something which we have tried to take out, that without even any external hardware, if I could create my own virtual playground, if I could like if through in a child's imagination, let's suppose 2 years, 3 years down the line on Kalam Labs, we basically are building something in which if a child is thinking that, okay, what happens if I make two black holes collide with the sun? So what will happen? What will happen if Jupiter comes closer to the sun? What will happen if electrons become protons, like by mass? So all these thought experiments, which were trademark of Einstein and the curiosity, like Einstein was always talking about that what happens when we run at the speed of light. These were the questions which he was trying to solve. Newton had a very famous question: why did this apple came down? So all these questions are not at all logical by normal mindset. Like nobody's like an apple falls down, everybody was seeing it, but the idea that why it is not going up, it's actually a thought experiment which is triggering it. So in our Kalam Labs, we are working in a way that 2 3 years down the line, if you want to create anything in your virtual environment as well as through augmented reality, you can just utilize it and create it. And that can be even a black hole, even a simple chromatography experiment, even something. So that's why we have used the name labs. And it's not the conventional practical labs, it's something more imaginative than the other things. So that is what we are doing in India from our side. And where so far we have got huge responses from all the people, as well as we have worked with government, and we've got research grants for our startup to work forward. And this is our whole journey. So I like to just tell about my co-founder as well. So we started out just 2 years back in our second year of BITS Pilani. It's an institution in technology in India, and we worked on it. And since 2.5 years, we've been working on this technology. And so far, we're hopeful that Luc Piaton, who's going to come in 20 minutes in this session, so he also liked the solution just through the power of LinkedIn, and they are trying to implement in France. We are working with Minna, and we hope that even the Finnish parents like so far what we have built. So that is what we have built, and the technical part of COVID and how we are trying to fight it off. So that is from our side. I'd like to now open the session for any views, and then I have certain questions which I wanted to ask to the speakers regarding it. So all the principals and all the people on YouTube, uh, you can ask anything, whatever you like. Yeah. You can unmute yourself and directly speak. Neeraj sir, Dilip sir, Nandita ma'am, Hindu ma'am, all the people. So I have a question from YouTube. So there's a gentleman named Mrinal Singh. He's asking the question to Minna that actually, like, we have heard about that Finland is having the best education system throughout the world. It's something which is known, I think, by a lot of Indians. The first thing which comes in our head when we hear of Finland is obviously the snow and then the good education setup. So, what Finland is doing so different from others, and particularly what is the core, like how Finnish education setup is having so much of great reputation as well as results throughout the world. What do you think about it, Minna?
Okay, big question. But yeah, few things come in mind. One is that our teachers are highly educated, so we all have master's degree on education. I think that's one. We have quite, at least nowadays, we also have this spoon teaching, like Kate said, that teachers are teaching the basics, but we have kids can participate. I think that's the key word. Kids can participate more in the learning, and we try to teachers also like to try to participate students to like planning their studies and what they like to learn and things like that. Yeah. And we are also concentrating on students' well-being. It's not only that I'm a teacher and I teach them math and Finnish and English and things like that, but I'm also trying to teach them about life and how to interact with other kids and table manners, and so it's this whole thing. It's teaching about them about life, how to manage certain basic skills in math and things like that, but it's much more than that, and at least for me, and I think most of the Finnish teachers.
Yep. I would like to just tell one thing. Yeah, Kate, I'll like you can ask the question. Yep.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to have a follow-up question. Do you feel like Finnish parents also, add up to the quality of education to children? Because I feel like in those countries where parents believe that you just drop a child into school and teachers need to do all the work, well, it's not working as efficiently if when the parents actually also pay a lot of attention and time to their children.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we in Finland, we do much work with parents, like this co-parenting thing first of all, parents usually trust at school and Finnish school system. That's one thing, but we collaborate with homes, so that's a big thing. And it's even in our curriculum that this school home collaboration.
Yep. This is one thing which I'd like to just highlight. So in Finland, when we had participated in that international competition, so I was reading about Finland. So there are, when you read about Finland in the Wikipedia pages, so there are cities in Finland, namely Espoo, Vantaa, and Turku, from Minna, like the city from where Minna is as of now. When you read about these cities, so actually these cities are known for their educational institutions throughout the world. So Espoo is actually the leading World Heritage Center for Learning. It is containing so many schools of innovation as well as different things. Vantaa is definitely a city. If I'm correct, then it's basically having a lot of universities where higher degree education is quite famous. And Turku, I think University of Turku is also situated over there, which is one of the most premier institutions in the world. And the interesting part is that Finland as a country is also portraying as education as the first priority. Like when you're looking at the pages, then it's not that how many big companies are there, how many agriculture is there, which I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying that it's an approach which we see different, which I definitely saw that was different from other countries. The other main thing was that when you look at the ideas and project proposals, so we are an Indian startup, and when we approached Finnish government regarding our project and ideas, so it was very weird to look that Finnish government is much more open to ideas. Like they actually put proposals that, okay, if you have an innovation, tell us. If we like it, then we'll buy it from you. So it's very different from a tender process in India. In India, government has rigid, strict lines. Like we as a startup, so we face all these things. Like when Kate was telling about the public-private partnerships. So it's something which we face in India a lot. That governments, they have strict guidelines. Okay, we want this to this directly from cut to cut, from here to here, nothing more or less. And you should have a reputation of 10 years, turnover of 50 crores or millions or something. So all these requirements cannot be met by any new company or a new business idea, from where basically people are working on innovative things. But in Finland, I saw it was very different, and it was even very welcoming in many sense. We were the only, I think, outsider team, but we never felt so much in any sense. And each and every person was looking at the educational ideas with a different perspective, which was remarkably different. So yeah, was my take. There's a question which actually is coming from YouTube, which is respect to China's so far education module. So Kate, we have seen in India that government has been trying a lot in order to increase create the education system in India more approachable through government mediums and channels. But still, in many parts of northern India, we find that private schools are only the good source of educational resources and dissemination so far. I'm not saying that it is like it's stagnant. It is changing, but how the things are in China, like how things are in China and how things are working over there. In India, we have seen that there is this like nobody, if government schools, nobody wants to opt unless they don't have any other option left. So that is the case in India. So how things are working in China regarding it?
Can you repeat your question, but make it shorter? Because I feel like,
yeah, so I'm just telling that how Chinese government is looking at the public schools as well as the private schools. Like,
right.
What's the difference?
So basically, there are a lot of private schools in China, but not as many as you can imagine. And mostly private schools. Most of them are actually international schools they are called international schools, and the primary language there is English. So a lot of classes there are taught in English, and you can imagine that not everyone can afford those schools. So most of the schools are actually public, but they have different, ranks. And there are like very popular, very famous schools that train children very well. So they end up having very high scores after high school, taking high school exams. So then they are children able to enter better universities. And so all Chinese parents try to get their kids into those high ranked public schools. But even public schools, they have different fees. Those fees were kind of abolished in 2008, but actually from being very official fees, they turned into hidden fees. And it holds a lot of parents to actually get their children into very good public schools. So there are different levels of public schools, there are different levels of private schools. And of course, if we talk about, for example, rural parents, they just decide not to take their kid into the city while they go for work, and kids stay in rural areas and study at very kind of low level public schools, if that was your question.
Yep. And Martin, I think you have asked a question regarding to it only, which is to Kate that are there any good teaching
Yeah, I was in the process of replying to this question.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, good examples. I would say that there were no apps that I would fall in love with and that I would try to even use myself, for example. But if we take the biggest players, and China is famous for having very big companies, very rich companies, fast growing companies, then so the first one, the biggest online tutoring platform is Janman one-to-one. It's in the name, you know, it's like the hand that helps you to connect one person to another. There are different tutors. I think it's actually a nice one. And if we talk about AI, that's an interesting thing. And I wrote about it in the last article with my co-author Emma. And so we talked about main technologies in AI. The one is, you know, this basically fast feedback of like arrow or like a correct answer. And the second AI technology is similar to Alex apps, is when the system learns your what do you know already, so it builds the content not based on your correct and wrong answers, but mostly on like what do you have already in your head based on your knowledge. And I would say that Alex like apps are not very spread in China right now, and most AI like good firms, they develop speech recognition kind of
question there. Question is the Alex the American app or program you're talking about? ALEC, right?
I think Carnegie Institute developed it in like 80s or something, and basically, yeah, I think Alex is one of the ways to develop AI, you know, programs, but it's pretty complicated. So it's not that popular in China. And again, AI edtech companies mostly develop speech recognition systems right now. Squirrel AI is a famous one. They don't work with speech, but rather the reaction of the children. But I've never seen how they're using AI and how does it work. I always hear some companies mention AI, but I am not sure how they're using it. They're collecting data right now. So right now, we shouldn't hype. AI is the future. If we talk about the future, AI is the future, but right now the data should be collected. There is not enough data. So China is an easy country to collect data, and this is what they're doing right now. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yep. So any further questions, principals, regarding it? Cool. So
so I think someone was asking something about devices, tablets.
Yeah, I think Martin was asking.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. If I can answer this. First of all, a few steps back, private public school discussion. So I think in Finland and other Nordic countries, we have only few public schools. So private schools. So all the schools are public funded. So every kid has like equal opportunity to go to school, get great education, and then go further studies. So I think that's one of the main things. And the devices, for example, in Turku, every student from 4th to 6th graders have a tablet from school, and city is providing it. And then every student from 7th to 9th grade has a laptop. And in 1st to 3rd graders, we have these shared tablets. Like, for example, we have 29 students. We have 2 class teachers, and we have 29 students, and we have 15 tablets to use. So with pairs you can use. So that's good.
In India, we have to go a long way. About 70-80% of the children don't have access to the tablet or to the computer. So we have to go a long way.
Yeah. And the first to third graders, they can't usually take tablet home, but for the 4th grade up, they can use the tablet or laptop at home also.
Wow, like that's truly interesting. I think in Indian context, Indu ma'am told us. Any other principal would like to give the insights, because I think it will be very different.
Hello, I would.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. I would like to.
Yeah. We can take Nayana ma'am first, and then
Yeah.
Indu
Yeah, first of all, hi everyone. I will only say that I would like to thank Kalam team for engaging such a enriching session with Martin and Kate, and it was really wonderful with Minna as well. I think this is a need of the hour. This collaboration thing is what Kalam is working on, I guess. It is exchanging of cultures, sharing cultures, as rightly said by Kate. And I loved the gamification of Martin, the way I think it is a device to engage the children productively and effectively for the future. It will really be beneficial. That's what I was properly observing it bit to bit. Regarding Minna, she said about what COVID has shown to students about using the tablets in efficient way. And as my fellow friends, they said very rightly that India is very far back. But then I guess this COVID has taught us many things, and we should not give up on this. It is future schooling what these guys are trying to get engaged, the principles, I feel. So the takeaway from this session for me will be highly motivating the students effectively through these apps which have come up, and trying to enforce the teachers to get reskilled, I guess, and updated. So this is what future schooling is. Thank you once more immensely. I'm really humbled and honored to be a part of this session.
Thank you, Nayana.
Oh, thank you for those kind words.
Yeah. Indu ma'am, you were speaking something. I think.
Hello, Varshit.
Yeah, ma'am. Like.
Yeah. Can I speak? I mean.
I think Indu ma'am was speaking something in between.
Okay, sure. Please go on.
Yeah, Indu ma'am, would you like to continue?
I think
there's some network error. Her screen is also paused. Nanta ma'am, I think you can continue. She can come after.
Yeah, I think about the same question.
Yeah.
Can I speak now? Is it?
Yeah, ma'am, you can.
All right,
speak.
fine. See, it's like this. I think what the question on the tablets and the the gadget use of gadgets, primarily mobile phones, Android phones, let us say. I think even about 5 years back, these gadgets were quite frequently used for the higher classes in terms of like from 8th standard upwards in quite highly ranked private schools in India, especially the so-called international schools. Whether it was in a collaborative way with parents, partnering with parents or otherwise, certain schools did provide this. And in fact, I say this because we too were in consultation with some of the agencies that would help us with this in this regard. And if you look at the towns, if you look at the cities, especially this and even the satellite towns, I think the story that is emerging gradually is that there is definitely at least one cell phone in every house, every home. So it's not a very bleak picture, but yes, when you talk in terms of schools that, as I said earlier, schools existing in very remote areas, there probably the infrastructure, the basic infrastructure in terms of net connectivity, more than the availability of cell phones, is also, and I think it's improving. If you give us another 2 years, 3 years, I think you will see a sea change. Because if you take a closer look at the national education policy, which is currently on the anvil, and how the change will come, I'm very, very hopeful that things will change. You will see a different picture. And if you are holding a similar kind of a Zoom session about 2 years, 3 years later, probably you will have teachers, giving you a much brighter feedback than as on today.
Yep, that's
okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the positive approach.
yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes, Indu ma'am and Nanta ma'am. Any other principal who would like to comment on this factor?
Yes, I would like to add here. It is a great session to be with Minna and
Kate and Martin. Yep.
Kate and Martin. Okay, and I would like to add here. This was a pandemic was a completely new experience for all of us, and I feel it has made us realize so many things. We had never thought that online teaching would be. I mean, initially we faced difficulties, but then it went on smooth. But I would like to bring here that like we have all types of students coming to our school, but then there were parents who had only one set of smartphone with them, and but they had three
That's
children.
right.
So we faced a
Yes.
lot of difficulty, scheduling the classes at different timings for these three students, accommodating them for different classes. But we have managed in this pandemic time, and I think so. I'm very hopeful that in future, I mean, we are expecting that all the parents are going to be having all the gadgets for each one of their child, which is going to be for the online class. And one thing more I would like to add, like Martin, they have added gamification for mathematics and all the other things. And nowadays children, they are very much interested in gaming. So, and if you're going to teach mathematics through games, I'm very sure it's going to be very helpful, and the teacher and the students are going to take a lot of interest, because whenever they get time, off from the class, they are into games. And if the subject is taught through gaming, I think I'm pretty sure that the children are going to develop the skills.
Yep.
And
Very right.
that's a very good concept.
Not here.
Yep. That was really insightful.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you, and it's a wonderful session. And it has given us insight to what is happening around the world, and how principals have handled. They had really difficult time handling this pandemic period. But we had been quite successful. And all the credit goes to all the teachers and all the principals of the school.
Yep.
Thank
Yes.
you so much.
Yes, ma'am. And I think Praveen sir, would you like to say something?
Yes, I was waiting to hear such good thoughts from different people. And I am not an educationist. I am into the education field and more of a technologist. So I will be now commenting from the technology perspective. Many of you have rightly pointed out that's a situation in India and in other countries also, that it's what I identify as a bottleneck or probably a way forward for this augmented reality to propagate, and whatever you bring into it, an AI or even take it forward into a VR mode. The bottlenecks that I see is, one is your connectivity. Like some speakers pointed out, that connectivity in rural areas is definitely a problem. It's a problem not only in rural areas, it's also a problem in the urban areas. Even in bigger cities, in many places, you have connectivity issues. So probably the technology that you implement or you develop should be in such a way that the content should be able to localize or get downloaded to probably a school level or to the device level, where a child can look at it or probably go through it without any bottleneck. What happens if I'm seeing a video or something, or a session is going on? If the connectivity is erratic or breaks, then my understanding of the things that are being said gets distorted, right? So a seamless flow of that content is very, very necessary for people to understand, or the children, even I would say the teachers, to understand that what that content is all about. So the delivery of the content is a very, very important factor from if a technology needs to be really implemented and used popularly. Devices, I don't think is an issue with the smartphones having means become so popular in most of the places. Yes, obviously every student may not be having it, but still it's quite a challenge that can be overcome as we go along. But but technology is something, delivery mechanism has to be there. Then the second thing that I think that is required is the participation of the teachers and educationists into development of the content. Now, the thing is, they are more knowledgeable and they have been teaching all along. And so they can develop better contents compared to a technologist or a developer or whatever you call that. So you need to have a platform which can be very easy for educationists, a teacher, or anyone of that sort to develop contents. So as you go along and the contents are, there is too much of those contents coming up from teachers, those would be much more effective compared to what a developer can do, or as a concept to somebody make some content. Because even in your class, if you teach, two teachers will be teaching two different methodologies or with two different types of teaching methods. Now, the explanation by one teacher could be very good for a student. The explanation from other teacher could not be that good. So as the participation of the teachers in developing the content increases, you can have the best contents available for students to learn. So that's my second point on the content development, and that how do you make platforms easy for people to use to develop content. So delivery, development, these are two basic things that probably I think are more important if we really need to see this technology go forward. You had said something about the governmental schools having means, or the government having policies which are very watertight compartments. I think that case has also changed now. I am involved in some of the projects with MHRD as well as with our Department of IT, and we are making some smart classrooms in northeastern states of the country, which have less resources at present. And what we have done is we have created very small labs, about 10 to 15 terminal labs out there. And at present, we have given them only a restrictive content, because the development of the content is something which is what we are giving is more of you can say on a experimental basis. So you can say it's a only that the devices can be used. But like I said, the contents need to be coming from different sources, and then only you would be able to make the best use and the best content available to the students. The third thing that is the availability of the content. Now, where do children find that content? They cannot just go on searching the Googling it out or something of that sort for the contents. You need to have some basic areas where we know that yes, educational contents from class this to this would be available at this particular place, and the students can be guided to those places because there are in schools there are implementations where you don't want some undesirable contents to be available to the students. So how do you do that? So if you know that these are some of the places where the contents would be available, you can obviously open to the students to go on to those places and download the content or see the contents and all those things. At present, they are all scattered. So that's another point that needs to be taken care of. I think I've spoken more than what I could have, means I've taken a lot of time, but I wanted to give these inputs on the technological part.
Yeah, that's really insightful, sir, regarding the technological part. And also, you highlighted very well that the Indian government is working really innovatively in the northeastern part of India. Like it's basically having lesser resources. But if you look at the northeastern schools in India, as well as the educational institutes, as well as small organizations, they are using sustainable, renewable energies. The innovative models are they used very well, and they are blossoming up very well. Now I like to introduce Marina Ranga ma'am. I'm really grateful that she has joined the session. It's like I think 9 a.m. according to her time. And I like to introduce her. She's basically project coordinator at European Commission Joint Research Center and an associate professor at University of Warsaw. She is also a chair strategic advisory board, Imperial College of London. She has been working with the universities in Europe. She has been working in the framework, and I'm really grateful that she has joined us. And ma'am, it's a great honor for all of us to have you in this session.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. A very good morning to you all, and I'm really very happy to be with you this morning. It's a great opportunity to be connected with India.
Yep, ma'am. And not only India, we have people from other parts as well.
With the world.
Yeah. So I'll like just introduce the other speakers. So as ma'am is having a different time period, so she joined a bit late. So Martin is basically he has joined us from France, and Kate has joined us from China, and Minna has joined us from Finland. And so it's a global setup which we are trying to create, and as well as this Zoom call is live streamed on the YouTube as well. So there are around 600 to 700 Indian parents and kids who are also watching us. I don't know how much kids were understanding this session, but I think the parents will find it very insightful so far. So yes, ma'am, we'd like to. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Well, I'm in a very distinguished company from all over the world today. What could I ask for more in such a beautiful Sunday morning?
Definitely, ma'am. So, ma'am, we'd like to hear your views about the topic and what all things you are thinking to tell to us regarding the post-COVID situation globally, and the use of technology and the other things as well. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, first of all, let me congratulate you for choosing this topic, because, it's so current, it's so topical, and at the same time, it's so complex. And there are so many angles from which we can look at it. I will limit myself to what is close to my area of expertise. So I'm an academic, so I will tell you a few things about how we see this in the university world. I hope it will be to some extent relevant to school teachers, because anyway, the learning, the teaching methods, and this kind of content implications are the same. But at the same time, I would also like to take a bit of advantage of my experience with the European Commission and give you some examples of measures and policies that the Commission has taken in order to facilitate access to these new educational technologies, to increase this equity in access, and also to facilitate access to internet in some poorer parts of the European Union. So I will basically make 3 points. I don't want to take too much time with these talk. So I would like to make these 3 points. Let me share my screen with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you allow me to?
Yes, 1 second. I'll just.
Because that will be a bit easier to follow, and then we will open for discussions.
Yeah. Ma'am, now you can present.
All right, there we go. Share. Okay, and we close this stuff. There we are. I called my presentation today from bench to virtual worlds because this is pretty much what this COVID crisis has put us into, this incursion into virtual worlds, at least for some of us, maybe unfortunately not for everyone. So the 3 points that I mentioned are that this COVID crisis actually has accelerated the use of digital technologies in education, be that at an unprecedented scale, but at the same time, it's also increasing the risk of a new digital divide. And probably the key word here is accelerating, because many of us thought, okay, with this confinement and online education, we have discovered some things. Well, those things, or at least most of those things, were there before, but most of us have not paid sufficient attention to that, as we will see from the opinions of a large number of respondents to a survey. And that has made us pay a price for that. The second point would be that the impact of these digital technologies in the university as an institution was mostly visible in the education mission, and less so in the other two missions or functions of the university, the research and the third mission. I will develop this a little bit later in terms of the three missions of the university, which have a very different impact and receptiveness at the same time for the digital technologies. And finally, just in order to avoid the emergence of this new digital divide, there is an increased need for new policies and new practices to support the development and also the diffusion of digital technologies for education. And here I would like to give you a few examples that the European Commission has adopted in recent months and years. So, we were wondering, okay, what is the impact of this COVID crisis? We know from the life of each of us that we are working from home, that kids take classes online, and there are restrictions of all kinds. But in terms of the specific impact of education, things were a bit more nuanced than we thought. Last year, from June to September, the European Commission launched a public consultation asking the citizens, but also other stakeholders in the education process, what they think about the future of digital education and during these times of crisis, but also beyond. And it was very interesting to see that almost 60% of the respondents had not used the distance or online learning before the crisis. This is what I meant when I said, well, these things existed before, but we were not so much aware of that. But a whopping 95% considered that the COVID crisis marks a point of no return for how technology is used in education and training. That was an amazing figure. And over 60% of the respondents also felt that they have improved their digital skills during the crisis, and they were also open and willing, more than 50% of them, to do more of that, to continue to improve that further. And in order to be able to do that, online learning resources and content should be more relevant, more interactive, and more easy to use. So that was sufficient information to give the marching orders to policymakers and also academics, companies in the EU. Action appeared to be absolutely necessary to take. But of course, there are some obstacles, and one of these, most importantly perhaps, is that many low-income homes have no access to computers. And also the broadband access varies widely across the European Union, and that's closely related to household income. So the level of poverty is an important factor to consider here. But at the same time, more than 1 in 5 young people across the EU fail to reach a basic level of digital skills. So you see, that sounds familiar, right? It's again that matter of digital skills, digital education, preparing the young for the new world of new technologies, Industry 4.0 and so on. So the matter of digital skills came back with a vengeance. On the other hand, less than 40% of educators said that they felt ready to use digital technologies in teaching, and there were also wide differences across the EU. And that was a conclusion that came out of OECD study that was conducted in 2018, and I have developed it on my next slide because I thought that may be of some relevance for our audience who are school teachers or school leaders. Overall, and the bottom line was that the COVID crisis led to an unprecedented shift to online learning and also in the use of digital technologies. So action should be taken and should be also targeted and focused on the most important areas in need. This OECD study that I mentioned is about teachers and school leaders as lifelong learners. And it was interesting because it looked at the way teachers apply their knowledge and skills in the classroom, but they also take into account the social and cultural configuration of their classrooms, the conditions of their pupils, and the school climate. They also looked at the way teachers acquire their knowledge, their skills, and the way they develop that further through continuous professional development. So they are asking a number of questions to the teachers and school leaders, such as practices that they are using in the classroom, how have these changed, how the classroom per se, the composition has changed, why did the teachers join the profession, and how they got educated for that, and what kind of professional development they need, and how do they envisage their continuous professional growth further. I think this might be a very interesting read for some of you. You can download it here, so this link is active. I hope you will find some interesting insights here. But now coming back to the issue of the digital technologies, it's like a sort of a black box. We say digital technologies, but in fact, very few or very specialized people actually can name those specific technologies that are applied. I've been very curious, what do we call digital technologies, or how broad is this pool of technologies that we are talking about? And I've been following, I found sort of an answer here in a report that I've been following for several years. Some of you may be familiar with that. It's called the New Media Consortium Horizon report, which was prepared together with the EDUCAUSE learning program in the US. And they have produced since 2002 annual editions of this Horizon report looking at higher education. And digital technologies or educational technologies have been a major focus for them over the years. They have monitored a number of technologies since 2002, so that makes almost 18, 19 years. And they grouped those technologies with application potential in education in several groups. You can find them here, you see. So they range from different consumer technologies to internet technologies, social media technologies, enabling technologies, digital learning, and visualization. And you may, of course, say, okay, but not all of them actually have a clear influence or impact on education. Yes, indeed, not all of them. They were initially screened at the level of potential, but some of them, and not few in fact, have actually had a very nice career in the education field. The same reports look at what the trends have been, what the drivers have been pushing the application of these technologies in higher education and education in the broader sense over the years. And they have classified these key trends in three groups by time of adoption. In the first group, they looked at those with immediate application in the next 12 months or less than a year, then into a midterm horizon, 2 to 3 years, and then in the 4 to 5 years. And you see here this sequence over time, starting from 2014 to 17, and then I will show you also for 2020, how the thinking has evolved around these new technologies. For instance, in 2014, the growing visibility, ubiquity of social media was an important element. The integration of online, hybrid, and collaborative learning appeared to be something imminent for the next 12 months, whereas in 2017, blended learning seemed to be important and for the immediate application. Taking a further look, we see, for instance, in the far-term horizon in 2017, it was deeper learning and advancing culture of innovation that seemed to be an important driver. What was very interesting to see in the evolution of this monitoring of technologies was the fact that last year, the same report decided to give up this midterm, near-term time adoption line, and they considered a broader range of criteria to look at the key trends. So, for instance, they identified social trends, technological trends, economic, higher education, and political. And if you take a look at all of these criteria, everything that is included in each category, we will see that a number of issues have come to on the radar, which we may have not thought of before. You know, for instance, the well-being and mental health in terms of social criteria, or if we are talking here in the political criteria, the political polarization and this kind of free speech discussion in universities. Of course, the economic trends like cost of higher education, climate change, future of worker skills, this could probably more, not unsurprising, but other criteria are now coming to the fore in a much more powerful way than before. And I thought this vision is an interesting change in the way we assess the emergence of these new technologies. There were also some considerations given to technology developments that have pushed one or another technology faster or slower, more slowly than the other. For instance, in the early days, 2013-14, there was a big discussion about MOOCs and tablet computing, then games and gamification and 3D printing, and then wearable technologies. But today, or anyway, closer to today, we are talking about artificial intelligence or natural user interfaces as technologies estimated to come in the mainstream in the next few years. You see, so that's a very interesting evolution of thinking. Again, in the last year reports, the Horizon report looked at a different set of technologies that are likely to come to the mainstream. They looked at the adaptive learning technologies, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and analytics for student success. And what's interesting here that they are examined from the point of view of five criteria: cost, faculty receptiveness, risk, learning impact, and support for equity and inclusion. And that attention to the social factor, I think it's an important development. So you can see here the different options of the panel who assessed them on a scale from 0 to 4. There are three other emerging technologies here: elevation of instructional design, learning engineering, user design in pedagogy. Also, the open educational resources coming strongly from behind, also in order to emphasize this need for more equitable, more democratic access. And also, finally, this extended reality with augmented and virtual reality, multiple reality, holograph, and all of that. But here, as you can see, for instance, the cost is very, very high. So that's probably the least likely to be adopted in the coming years. Or it is adopted by some universities or some institutions that are more endowed than others. And that, again, comes to increase that digital divide that I mentioned earlier. At the same time, there are also important challenges that impede higher education adoption. And here we distinguish between solvable and difficult and wicked. For instance, digital literacy comes again again and again, but here it is considered to be a solvable one, and also the fact of integrating formal and informal learning. Achievement gap and digital equity, they are more difficult but still doable, whereas managing knowledge obsolescence and rethinking the roles of educators, that is a very interesting one. These two are very interesting. When it comes to the application of these challenges and this consideration of impact within the university as an institution, I mentioned earlier these three missions of the university, the first mission, education, including here all this undergrad, postgrad education, continuous professional development, lifelong learning. Then the research, the second, basic research, applied research, and the third mission, service to society. And here we include all these activities related to tech transfer, research commercialization, entrepreneurship, and regional development. And it's a very interesting phenomenon to look at in terms of diffusion and adoption of new technologies within the university across these three missions. If we take them one by one, we will see that the most visible impact has been in the education mission, in the education sphere. And this has led to changes on several levels in the education delivery mode, in teaching and learning approaches, in the curricula development, in the course design, assessment methods, the classroom's organization, in changes in the education actors' roles. You see, we have seen this evolution from department-centric to student-centric, and I'm coming with the argument that it should be not only student-centric, but also student-teacher-centric, because the teacher has an important role in delivering that education to the student. There has been some change in the education outcomes in the sense that new skills are now needed for students to meet the new workforce demands. And all of that could not happen without a change and a rethinking of university business models, because these technology-based universities often operate at much lower cost than traditional ones. And implementation of these technologies also comes with changes in the administration, in the way of making purchases, procurement, and things like that. If we go on a broader scale, we see changes in the university role in the local ecosystem and an enhanced cooperation with other actors like industry, like government, like civil society, this perspective that we have in the European Union of the quadruple helix, so-called. And also an increase in a university's global competitiveness, because those who have made advancements in this application of new technologies have improved their competitive position, and they can become the new leaders, while others will lag behind or go bankrupt. In terms of educating the new workforce, the next generation, we will see more students in STEM subjects. We will see new curricula and new training programs that may see the influence of the dialogue with manufacturing industry, with other range of companies involved in the digital economy. We will see more influence of the IT and production engineering, which is driven by customers and business. We will also see more relevant courses in the big four industry areas, big data and analytics, cloud, mobile, and social, that are imperatives for today's enterprises. So you see, all in all, we see a number of changes, particularly this here I find very interesting. New qualifications in business areas, particularly those dual degrees, combined hybrid degrees like engineering and business or engineering and law, which also imply stronger cooperation between business schools and those engineering departments or other departments within a university. And as you know, that may be not one of the strongest issues, as we know departments are pretty much worlds in themselves in many cases. It also means interdisciplinary skills, for instance, business management and project management. And when it comes to teaching skills for students, some of you may be aware, may be familiar with this Partnership 21 framework for 21st century learning, which introduced a broader picture of the skills that are now required to make students equipped for the challenges of the 21st century. And the essence of this picture is that on top of the core subjects that you see here in green, new skills include 3 other categories of skills that should be provided to students: life and career skills, learning and innovation, and information, media, and technology. So our digital education is pretty much here in the purple category. And we see what kind of literacy are we talking about: information literacy, media literacy, and ICT literacy. Whereas the learning and innovation skills include critical thinking, problem solving, creativity and innovation, communication, collaboration, and so on. And here, finally, in the career and life, we are talking about flexibility, the soft skills, you know, adaptability, initiative, self-direction, and so on. And all that also need to take into account the more administrative, the more technical aspects of education, like the standards and assessments, the quality assessments, curriculum and instructions, professional development, and the overall quality of the learning environments. So I thought this was a very good framework for giving us the direction of, you know, the complexity of the skill set that is needed in the 21st century. I'm actually very fond of this one in particular, innovation. I'm teaching innovation, technology management, and entrepreneurship to students, and I think that's a very good preparation for the future. So, and it's also a good way to include, you know, to connect with the other categories of skills. I will go a bit more quickly here in the challenges that we have in implementing new technologies, but still I would like to point out that the insufficiency of digital literacy for teachers is a major problem. Most academics are not using new technologies for learning or teaching or research. They have rare opportunities for that. Actually, few universities offer this kind of training. And also on the side of the teachers, they are often confronted with lack of time or lack of expectation that they should do that. There are also important forms of recognizing research, authoring, publishing, researching via the social media that are not properly recognized, and they should be, you know, revisited because that makes more and more of the visibility of the researchers. There are also some education's own processes that hinder the adoption, like resistance to experimentation, comfort with the status quo, promotion and tenure reviews. Personalized learning is also not adequately supported, and so on. So all of that means some systemic view, you know, that is needed to understand the challenges and the complexity. When we are talking about the implications for research, the other function, we will see here the emergence of new interdisciplinary research areas, and they are coming with new research teams, better integration between basic and applied research, new research programs, new sponsors like government or other sponsors, more research partnerships, and more interdisciplinary research institutions. So the institutional setup may change itself. And furthermore, when we're looking at the third mission, the academic entrepreneurship, we will see the use of new technologies in the entrepreneurial education for students, more incentives for technology startup formations by both academics and students, more startups in industry 4.0 technologies, new business models, more involvement in industry 4.0 clusters. So overall, the role of a technology entrepreneur in society can increase. Finally, 2 words about some measures that the European Commission has taken. And I'm giving you this because I think this could be very interesting to follow, especially in terms of support to this kind of mass access to the internet. The European Commission has adopted last summer this Digital Education Action Plan for 21-27, which basically goes in 2 directions. One is fostering the development of a high-performing education ecosystem, and the other one is about digital skills. And here you see a number of measures that look at each of these areas. First, I would point out to this European Digital Education Content Framework, which is, as I listened to the discussion before, is a way of providing unified content which would be applicable in all the 27 countries of the EU. Then a European exchange platform to share certified online resources and connect with other education platforms, different measures to support connectivity in schools, but also different ways of supporting teachers through instruments that are available through Erasmus, for instance, the teacher academies or an online self-assessment tool for teachers. Also, the ethical guidelines are present here on artificial intelligence and data use in teaching and learning. Here on the skill side, let me point your attention to this digital competence framework, which is a very interesting framework for identifying all the types of digital skills necessary to the citizens, to the students, basically to anyone. Then the need to create a European digital skills certificate that would be recognized and accepted by governments, employers, and others. More participation in this international computer and information literacy study, digital opportunity traineeship extended to VET, and so on. These are some details about the competence framework. I will not spend too much time. I really encourage you to take a look at that. It's free, downloadable here. I'm actually happy that the report has been produced by my colleagues in the Joint Research Center. And here are some details about this CIL, Computer and Information Literacy Study. And so that brings me to the end of this presentation, and sorry for taking too long with that. So I'm back.
No issues, ma'am. Like, this was a very insightful presentation. I hope like all the educators on the Zoom call, as well as the international speakers which we have, Kate, Martin, as well as Luke. So Luke has also joined. We'll introduce you shortly, Luke, regarding the things. So were there any questions or insights which you want to ask, like the principals as well as other people?
Yes. You mean me, or I take questions?
Questions from the people, like from the audience.
Okay.
Yeah. So, any questions on that? Anyone?
It was very complete.
Yes. Hello, Anuradha ma'am. Like, thanks for joining us here. Ma'am, do you want to comment anything about Marina ma'am's presentation?
It was very very complete, and I like the way she the view of all European country, and especially the new roles of the teachers in the future, because the role is changing, and we have to point this out. And sometimes some teachers are not really prepared for this.
Yeah.
We have to guide them.
Yeah. Yes, Anuradha ma'am, would you like to comment on it?
Sorry?
Yeah, Anuradha ma'am. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Ma'am, I think you are still on mute. I think there's some error, ma'am. Like, it's not unmuting. Yeah, it's on now.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to ask, what are the methods that can be adopted to encourage a child to sort the information that he receives on the digital media? Because
is that a question for me?
Yes.
All right. Yes. Well, I think that is really the key question here, and this is where we see the role of the educator, and the changing role of the educator, because of course you can guide them in the classroom, you can give them some reading lists, or you can give them some sort of advice, but that will never be enough to keep them safe from accessing different junk sites and all that. So what is good and what is good quality, what is not good quality on the internet, that's an eternal question. But I think what we can do here is to give them the criteria for choosing and for appreciating, and training them to focus on the information that may be relevant to a certain topic that they are studying, and the kind of critical analysis and critical thinking in selecting those information sources. I have this issue basically all the time with my students.
All the time this is happening.
Yeah, when I'm giving them the assignments, the end of term work and so on, I typically tell them, well, I'm not restricting your use of internet sources, but be very careful with what kind of sources you're using, because I don't want to see any copy pasted or anything that comes telltale from the internet. I want to see your critical thinking, I want to see your filter, and I want to hear your own voice in giving me the main information, the main idea from what you are reading. And that is putting them in the driving seat. That is asking them to interpret, to filter, to critically analyze what they read. And if they don't do that, it's not a pass, because it means that our job has not been done in terms of developing that critical analysis. And that is a difficult job, damn it. And there are cultural issues here, especially when I'm dealing with Chinese students who are very often taking things as they find them on the internet, and they are giving that to me and say, okay, ma'am, this is what I found. And I am explaining, well, that's not what I asked from you. I'm asking you to interpret that, not to give it to me as such, So that in their case, and not only their case, means a sort of a leap in their frame of mind. And that's very difficult. But again, I think our way and our capacity to explain selection criteria, quality criteria, research methodology that helps them separate good from junk, I think that's important.
Yep.
I think the role of case-based questions and case-based study becomes technically critical automatically. And I have recently submitted some work where a child has to develop the instinct and, use his knowledge to do a plumbing job, let us say. So how does he study the terrain of a particular location? And so he doesn't get that material straight from the net. So he will have to learn how to learn from the internet.
Yes.
As to the location that he has been given. And so this is totally unrelated. He's not going to be a plumber, but he has to have the instinct as to what the plumber should do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
problem-based learning or case study based, as you said, that can be very important. Giving in class, giving students examples that relate to their everyday life, to their countries, to their regions, to their close, immediate circle. I think that's absolutely essential. And when you do that, students also feel much more engaged. I like to see this engagement, and also I'm lucky enough to have students from basically 60-70 countries at the same time in class with the Erasmus program. And when you see this kind of variety of views from all over the world, it's fantastic, it's fabulous. It's like a UN summit, in a simple class. It's really very
and the richness it must be bringing in, because everybody thinks so differently. They've been brought up in different regions. Yes.
That was really insightful. The whole point of the cross-culture interchange of ideas and thought and education. So now I like to introduce, is there any other question in the panelist? Any other question regarding Marina?
Yeah, I actually had a question about critical thinking, but I'm also trying to think about the time and that it takes us a very long time to have panels. So I'm not sure if I should develop the discussion right now.
You can ask it perhaps we'll
thanks. Thank you very much for the presentation. I think it reflects and summarizes a lot what I also mentioned when I was talking. And I think critical thinking is essential, and for China it's a pain point for sure. But what I immediately thought is that if critical thinking is essential for the middle school, or it should be developed in higher education. And because I wonder what is your take on that. And what I think also helps students a lot is that, for example, having Olympiad games, like knowledge Olympiad games in middle schools, in parallel to their spoon feeding studies at schools. So what is your take on critical thinking and when it should be developed?
Well, my take is very clear on that. The sooner the better, because you cannot work with students in their early 20s in the universities in the same way. I mean, if they are formed in a different way when they are at the younger ages. For instance, there are some habits, there are some mindsets that are being formed in early ages, and that particularly that critical thinking is an essential one. If you are working with a student who has been used to being very, obedient and in their corner and very shy and with a terrible lack of confidence, it will be very hard later in their 20s in the university to help them get out of that mindset and make them more assertive, more critical, more expressing their own mind and expressing their own opinion. And this is exactly what we want. We want this freedom of mind, but also educated, because liberty does not mean telling absolutely everything that goes through your mind, So you want this kind of informed and educated assertiveness, and that is something that you train from the earlier ages. The sooner you start doing that, the better.
I absolutely agree. And this is why, as I mentioned when I was talking, technologies are super interesting. They're very important. It's very interesting to see what the developers are doing. But a good tutor, if your school is not able to give you, proper classes, and this is what happens a lot with rural areas, a good tutor is essential. And online schooling can help a lot with bridging those very good tutors from all over the world with disadvantaged kids. So I think we should push for that. Thank you.
Yes, Ekaterina. And that's a really good insight. Now, Luke, what's your take on the whole topic?
I have a good example of critical skills regarding the information. A literature teacher has a kind of act the Wikipedia, and he tested his students. So he has to manipulate the information on a Wikipedia special article, and he put some very big mistakes. And after that, he gave homework to the students, and I can remember that more than third quarter of the class has just copy paste the information. So he showed the result to all the class, and it was a very good lesson, and it develops their critical mind.
Yep, Yep. So that's an interesting observation and can be really insightful for the critical thinking and development. So I think if there are any other questions which you can take regarding the whole topic and scenario, any other point which was left uh, yet to be covered, all the panelists.
Just point out that the mentor role is important, very important. Yes, in digital learning, when I create some digital learning materials, I let a big place for the tutor, because there is a lot of drop down rate for the modules. And if you just let a student in front of his screen, it's not working. It's not working. You have to guide him and to encourage him. And so blended learning for me is the future.
Yes, that's
after the COVID in the new world.
Exactly. That's the good word, like blended learning. It's a very new word.
Yes, and we with this crisis, the only positive point that we have gained about 3 to 5 years of awareness of the people on this kind of technologies.
Yep.
Yes, sometimes they didn't test it before. They haven't tested it before, and they are forced to, and very quickly. So we have to convince them that the test they use very quickly, that's not all the digital learning possibilities and modalities. And when we will be less hurry, we will have to have some long-term goal.
Exactly. So that was
Yeah,
really.
Harshit, is it possible to ask a question?
Yeah, please, ma'am, go on. Yeah.
So I just wanted to, I mean, I think it's relevant to every school in every corner of the world. Now, in this post-COVID, especially the post-COVID era, has pushed us into our homes and operating from homes. The entire infrastructure of the school is practically vacant, and it seems to have lost its influence and meaning altogether. Now, I am actually looking at the social relevance of the entire ecosystem that the school provides to each individual child. I am not talking about the specific subjects to be taught in the classrooms, but in terms of the social skills, the softer skills that actually the child is developing every day, every moment is a learning experience for him or her. So how do we build that into our online classes? And also the other area is that, there needs to be a lot of education for every individual child in terms of self-discipline, in terms of learning online. So that also, I think, needs to be now gradually inbuilt into I won't say textbooks, but I would say that probably in the give and take of even our online classes, we need to build that in.
Yep, that's so true, ma'am.
So,
yep. So I
thank
think
you. Anybody who wants to.
Yes, ma'am, Nanta, ma'am. Like any comments on that section as well? Like if any panelist wants to comment on that. And I think like it was a very wonderful session. And thanks, Ekaterina, Martin, Minna, Marina, ma'am, Luke, as well as Anuradha, ma'am, Nanta, ma'am, Nina, ma'am. And there were so many principals who were there with us since the morning session. Like just share the YouTube statistics. So around 1.5K people have seen us so far in this 2-hour session. And I truly believe that their insights are will be wonderful. I'll share the email addresses of the speakers as well as the panelists present in the session, so that if any educator or even a parent or a teacher or somebody if they have any questions or follow-up doubts, they can further communicate as well as exchange this idea. So this is was a initiative from us.
Thank you for that. It's wonderful.
Yes,
thanks.
Yeah, we are just a startup from India, and we have been working to inculcate new technology in education in a different way. And we are happy to see have mentors like Anuradha ma'am, Luke, as well as Minna. So many people who have been working with us and believing in the idea. And I hope that this session was insightful for all the people who came. Thank you, Marina ma'am, for I seriously, that's a big thank you from our side, because you the time period, this was a huge problem for you, yet you came to this session. And I truly believe that your insights on the theoretical learning and all the aspects, they were wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be with you this morning. Very
Yes,
nice. Thanks a lot.
So around 4 countries, people from 5 countries were in this, there in this call. From China, Kate; from USA, Marina ma'am; Luke from France, with Anuradha ma'am, and all the principals, and me from India, and Minna from Finland. So so many different people coming, and I don't know what was happening on YouTube. But that was a wonderful session from our side. I hope that you all liked it.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. It was a very
very
enriching session. And thank you all the speakers for giving us a beautiful insight into each and everything. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks a lot. Bye.